Hi guys, so I've got a very special interview for you today. I'm joined by a very good friend of mine and someone I've worked with for over 10 years now. I'll let him introduce himself and we're going to have a big chat about his experience in the game, where it's come from, where it's going, and things he's seen over the years. It's a pleasure to meet my good friend Geert, who's going to talk about some amazing things. So, please, introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Geert Vandervelden. I'm coming from Belgium, so I was a former coach of the Belgian national team, the Dutch national team, the Argentinian national team, and I also or a coach from local handball teams in Belgium. So, but my heart is here with the one wall.
Okay, it's worth saying he did coach the British team for
that's true.
for 1 week.
And you won a medal.
We won a medal, yeah. So just tell me a little bit about your experience. So you started playing the Belgian game that then became wall ball for you. So how did it start?
Yeah, so I started to play our local discipline, a local handball game when I was very small, 10 years old, and then I never heard about one wall because it wasn't very popular in Europe or even not existed in Europe. But then I met a coach in a team where I was playing, and he already heard about it, one wall. What came from the US. He already built a wall. It was in a little town in Halle, it's close to Brussels, where he built inside one wall, and he tried to introduce that new sport, but he didn't have much of I would say people who were interesting to play, because they saw it like it's a game who's coming from the US, and we don't have to you say that, accept all the things that are coming from the US. But I found more and more I found more and more interesting into the game, because there was a lot of action, and then I went to I had the possibility to go to first to the World Championship in Portland, and there the world went open for me. So I met a lot of interesting players, people where not sport it's one of the most priorities, but it's more being together, one big family, cultures, bringing cultures together, bringing languages together. So when I took it back to Belgium, where I started to create a little bit more, and the same thing here in Holland.
So talk to me a little about Portland, because that was one of my first experiences. And just like how did it open your mind? Like, who did you meet? Like, what was the scene like? How did it?
Because of the guy that I met here in Belgium, in Halle, he said, look, you have to see William Polenko. And that's the time where I met William Polenko. So I was a little bit shaking to go to see him and to shake him first the hand, because he was the well-known one-wall player at that moment, even now. I was a little bit maybe too direct, but I invited him right away the year after to come to a junior European championship that I organized in Belgium, because at that moment I was already the national coach for the juveniles in Belgium. So, and I wanted to introduce a new discipline that players could play during the winter, that there was a lot of action, and you just needed a wall and a ball and you could play it. So it opened a lot my mind. I also had the experience there to see four wall, that I right away saw that it would be more difficult to implement that in Belgium, because it costs a lot of money. But look at the one wall, you just needed a wall and a ball, and everybody could play it. So it opened a lot of my mind.
Yeah. How easy is it to start a new discipline? Surely there must have been people who were saying, don't do it.
Yeah. So the federation, they saw it a little bit like a threat, bringing something new, who was a little bit in concurrence with our local game that we are playing from March till September. But I had some very good friends who also saw that it could bring other, we could find other players or other people, children also, to start playing another discipline who wasn't very known in Belgium. So I met then Guillaume Dumoulin, Sébastien Poitier. So that was the moment that we started to create a little bit more that game. But for sure, the federation didn't want to know about it, because that was a threat for them. But then I convinced some very good handball players to play that one ball play game during the winter, like a sort of preparation for their summer season, and they loved it, and that's the way how it worked.
So I've seen a lot of people, especially the old school people, they don't like one wall because they think it's a threat.
Yeah.
I would show them what's going on here, because all these kids will then play the national game as well, and they're better. But we'll talk about this in a minute.
Okay.
So let me take you back to the early days.
Yeah.
So you had the small tournament with Willy Polanco.
Yeah.
And then there was like a Belgian tournament. You started to meet me and Seb, and we discussed a European tour.
Yeah, certainly a name that we cannot delete from our list is when I came here the first times in Holland to meet Bouke Nicolai.
Of course.
He is the starter really here in Holland with one wall, and he built his own wall in his own little village. And he also had the contacts with William Polanco already, because he invited him also to come to Holland. So we really have to mention that name, because Bouke did a lot here in Holland for the one wall.
He sadly passed away.
Yeah, he passed away 2 years ago. Yeah, from cancer. Yeah. So I have to say that I learned a lot from him here in Holland, because it's a different culture here. Here also, he first and then after me had to fight against people old school. Thinking people to introduce that sport, but if you see this now, you can only see that at the end of the way it's very positive.
And what were the principles of the European Tour? Why did it start?
Why did it start? Because we know that we had the European Championship and the World Championship from the CGB, that it was for countries. So a lot of people were not allowed to play international tournaments, and I remember the first time when I discussed with Bouke that he said, look, we don't have to work with the federation anymore, we have to create something on our own where everybody can join a tournament, an international tournament. And this was also the moment that we met you, and then it started like that, European, first with in Belgium, then in Holland, and then it came bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and talk to me about the growth of the tour. Like, are you proud from where it started to where it is now? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, you can be proud, but you can never be satisfied. So I want to introduce it more and more in other countries. So like I mentioned to you today, in April we'll go to Poland. I'm invited to go to Poland to some schools to give clinics to sport teachers, and then also to children between 12 and 17 years old, and hoping that for a year they can practice, and then after that they can be introduced in a junior open, for example. The same thing for the European Tour for adults. Maybe some adults over there will like the sport also. Because the guy who had invited me, he said, look, everywhere in the school you find a wall, and a ball doesn't cost nothing, so it will be really now the moment to introduce it also in Poland. Satisfied? Yeah, okay, for sure we can be satisfied, because we do it with no money. We are not funded by nobody. You know it very well as me. So it's we had a lot of people behind us who pushed us also to go further and further and further. And that's how we arrived in Italy, in Spain, in France now, in the UK. So I hope in a few years we can have a very big European tour with 10-15 countries.
Cool. And okay, so next to us, outside the window now, it's the Junior European Championships. What's the story of that? Yeah,
also again a very crazy story. So I met Simon Minisma here, who had he has a handball school, but they're local discipline. With more than 200 kids that he is preparing for the summer season. He has a lot of coaches who are preparing each other, but he didn't know what it was, one wall. So when I met him a few years after, I said, look, you're losing your children between in the winter time. Okay, there is soccer here, but why not introducing another game who is very close to your local discipline? I say, yeah, but I don't know the game. So I introduced him also in Belgium to see the games. I invited him to come some tournaments, and then I told him, look, you know what, you don't have to do nothing. I will do it for you. So that was the time that I became a partner from him, from Score Wall Ball Academy that we started up. And in the beginning we only had 60 kids in the winter to practice, who was not less, it was already much 16. But then you see now in the winter he has 220 kids where he is giving one wall clinics to. So every Saturday and every Sunday they can come to practice.
Wow.
And then after a few years I said, look, okay, you can practice with them, but they need an objective, they need a goal to prepare themselves for something. Let us introduce an international junior open. Okay, it's now for the 7th time that we organize it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why do you think the kids like it so much?
It's easy to play. You don't need much, it doesn't cost much. And you see also, it's the same a little bit in Belgium. If you're not very strong in the local game, you don't have a place in the game anymore because there is no place. Here, there is always a way to fight against somebody else. You don't need much power. So yeah, I like, and also yeah, the cultures that we are bringing together. Because today also I spoke with a mother that she said, look, I didn't know that my son would be allowed to talk with Irish children. And look, he's a Flemish one. I never heard him speaking English. And look, he is playing now with an Irish person on the pitch. So this is what's bringing that sport together.
Nice. What's your favorite memories of the sport?
My favorite memories, Jesus, that's a difficult. Yeah, my favorite memories of the sport is when I was invited to go to New York. Yeah, there it's okay. Portland, it opened a lot of doors for me, but New York, yeah, this was something else. So it's like I arrived on another planet when I was speaking about one wall. So also the mindset who is behind it, taking children out of the street, out of criminality, but giving them a place where they can do sports. So this was one of my favorite reminds.
Yeah, and as one of the most well-travelled people, you've met a lot. So you've already mentioned Willy Polanco.
Yeah.
Who else have you met who has inspired you and changed your way of thinking?
Yeah. So yeah, William was for me the Mr. Ambassador because I gave him that name. And then after a while, yeah, for sure. At the moment that certainly, if I'm talking about international context, yeah, was the moment that I met Stephanie Vega. So I invited him also to come to Belgium, and then afterwards, okay, because of the becoming a national coach, I met other people like you guys. So yeah.
And which has been your apart from New York, your favorite country? Because you've been all around the world. Where have you enjoyed?
It's a very difficult one. If you're talking about one wall, for sure I have to say Belgium, because together with Sebastian and Guillaume we created Killshot Club. That's also I convinced them to organize the first international tournament over there. They also, because they say, look, we don't speak English, we don't have the international context, where I invited a lot of US players for the first time. So yeah, I have to say then Belgium and Killshot Club. Yeah.
Only a few more questions. What do you think are the problems at the moment that we need to overcome as the sport grows? What are the issues?
The issues that I think it's already now 10 years, 15 years that we are fighting against it, that we cannot call them anymore old school people, because federation also they have new people inside, but most of them is not knowing the sports, not being interesting in a new discipline. We have to stop to, for example, to create a child and to put them in like a box and saying them, look, now you're going to play soccer and now you're going to play the local handball game. And you cannot play one wall because it's not good for that. Let children choose. Let them the freedom to choose what kind of sport discipline they want to play. So we have to convince more people that this sport is really one of the sports who has to be on the Olympic Games. And we have to fight against people who are thinking negative, but for sure more publicity, more sponsorship, more funding, yeah, will help us a lot.
And what is your future?
Oh, normally I could be retired already. No, that's for my job. That's the whole way. I don't know. If like I see it over here, it's going very well. For sure, there is also, I have to be honest, there is also now a gap between 17 years old till adults. But now Simon is putting a lot of efforts in children with minus 11, minus 13, and the biggest group today is 11, 13 and 15 years old. So we will have a future. But personally, my future is I hope that I will see it growing and growing in Europe. Certainly for us, what we created so many years ago. And then okay, we'll see. Let them enjoying the sport, and I don't have really objectives anymore.
Okay, final question. How do you describe this sport or this community in one word?
Family.
Nice. Thanks, man.
Thanks.